I'm approaching year 21 of lifting this fall, and hearing that, it makes me think two things. Damn, I'm getting old, and that's a long fucking time to be training, especially with no breaks. But I want to take this time to share with you the most important lessons I've learned over 20 plus years of training, so that you can apply it to whatever stage of training you're at now and supercharge your results so that you don't have to spend 20 years doing so. Here's some of the top things I've learned in no particular order. 1. The only sets that matter in the gym are the intense sets. It's really easy to get caught up in the gym thinking I have to do X number of sets in the gym. Let's say it's 10 or whatever the number is. And then from there, it's really easy to potentially just go through the motions on some of the exercises just to hit those 10 sets. Maybe your program currently calls for 3 sets of flat presses, 3 sets of inclines, and 4 sets of flies. And maybe this routine works for you. But if you find that by doing this amount of sets, you end up only focusing on really hitting 2 of the pressing exercises hard, 1 for the incline, 1 for the flat press, and maybe 1 to 2 hard on the flies, and simply just due to fatigue, you can't really put as much intensity into the other sets you're doing, you might find that you end up just leaving too many reps in the tank on some of these exercises, and your overall intensity just drops. So in the end of the day, you're really only putting in 4 to 6 intense working sets for that session. And as a result, those other 4 sets, they're completely junk volume. On paper, it might look like you did more than 6 sets, but you actually didn't stimulate any more muscle growth from those additional 4 sets due to lack of intensity. And in the end of the day, all you did was just give your body more to recover from. So while I'm not gonna give you a specific number of sets you should do here, figure out how many sets you could actually perform intensely in each session. And when you figure that out, do no more than that. It doesn't matter what the specific number here is. Quality over quantity. And that leads me to number 2. Training to failure is absolutely a useful tool, but it's not necessary by any means, despite what you've been told. Truthfully, when you should train to failure is entirely exercise dependent. If you can train an exercise safely to failure, go for it. That generally means it's going to be more well suited for things like machines or isolation exercises, ones where you could really lock in and stay stable, or anything that you're not prone to form breakdown or a highly technical lift. Now, big compound lifts, especially with barbells and dumbbells, they're really not very well suited for training to failure. For example, if you're squatting, you're really not going to get any more out of an additional rep that could potentially pin you at the bottom of a squat rack. You're not going to get more out of a deadlift by going for that next rep where your lower back is completely rounded. And as a result, you're simply just going to accumulate more injuries over time and more overall fatigue. But the good thing is, if you want to maximize your progress, especially on barbells and dumbbells, you're really going to get the max amount of benefit out of each set by stopping just 1 rep shy of failure or on that last clean rep. Now, number 3, the amount of sets and reps, the only ones that matter are the ones that you can recover from. I always find it funny how so many people want to know, how many sets are you doing in the gym? How many sets should I be doing in the gym? How many do you do for this body part? Or they might argue you only need 1 to 3 sets for a body part. Anything more is overtraining. And then you have guys that go the complete opposite direction. They say if you're doing anything less than 5 reps, you're simply training with too low volume and you need to bump it up. But the truth is, how hard you're training and how much you can recover from is really what's going to dictate how many sets you should be doing in the gym. And let's say you're a bigger, stronger, more skilled lifter, you might need to train with less sets than you did as a beginner. But if you're actually training harder and more intensely, even if you're doing less sets now, you're actually putting in more overall work. So the exact amount of sets that you should do, it's going to be based on your recovery ability. It shouldn't come from an arbitrary number of sets that you read online that could be considered optimal. Number 4, what your training looked like in year 1 through 5 is likely to look very different in year 5 and 10, or 15 or 20 for that matter. Just like when you build a house, the first thing you have to do is build the foundation. How strong you build that foundation, that'll determine the overall strength of the home. It'll determine its longevity and its ability to last a long time. Now with training, just like a house, there's foundational training that you must do, especially if you want long-term progress, you want to last in this sport, and you want to build as much muscle as possible. But once you establish that foundation and you build that strength base, you're pretty much free to do whatever you like. That's why it's important to not look at a pro bodybuilder, especially what he's doing now, and think that that's what got him the physique he has. He trains that way now, but he likely built his foundation with other training methods. He likely spent a good chunk of time focusing on the basics. Now, how I train at year 20 is actually very similar to how I train at year 1. But where there's a massive difference, I was initially training with exercises to just build a full body mass. And many of those exercises are still a staple. But a smaller part of my training, and something I focus on more now, the addition of a lot more exercises to bring up specific weak points. And if I started training the way I do now back then, it would have taken me a lot longer to get to where I am now. Despite the fact that my training might appear more advanced at this stage, it's not appropriate for year 1 through 5. Number 5. Pick exercises that don't hurt your body. This is one thing that I really wish I would have understood early on in my training. Of course, there are exercises that are key foundational mass building movements that you should do. But the one thing that you need to understand is that there's always a variation that might be more suited for your body. I personally feel that flat barbell bench press and incline barbell bench press are great mass builders for the chest. But personally, I never benched with a super wide grip like a lot of bodybuilders do. Never felt comfortable in my shoulder joint personally, and I always got the best pump in my training when I used a more moderate to narrow grip. But one thing that I definitely did for many years, which I wish I wouldn't have, was blindly follow some exercises that I thought had to be done. Things like heavy barbell squats and heavy deadlifts, especially conventional deadlifts. I always heard heavy barbell squats build the best quads, heavy conventional deadlifts build the biggest back. And there's some truth to that. And for many guys, they're excellent exercises. But throughout enough time and enough experimentation, I found that Romanian deadlifts were much more suited for my body. I always got a better contraction and connection with them, and they always provided me with less wear and tear on my body over time. I also found that while I was super strong on traditional barbell squats and personally enjoyed them, I didn't necessarily have the best leverages or structure to use them, especially to build my quads. I got a lot of hip strength out of them, but I also taxed my lower back and my knees a bit more than I needed to. I later found that personally doing an exercise like the Zercher squat, where I could sit more upright, gave me a lot better contraction on my quads. And it was just suited much better for my body structure. And as a result, I had a lot more longevity from the exercise. Early on in my training, I followed a lot of the advice that there's a great exercise for a body part. And again, there's some truth to this. But what I wish I really would have understood is that in bodybuilding, if your goal is to build more muscle, there's no such thing as a must-do exercise. So I encourage you, experiment with movements that are time-tested and proven, but don't be afraid to alter the technique to one that suits you better. Number 6, always strive to do as much as you can. But if it comes down to quality versus quantity, never sacrifice on quality. This game of bodybuilding is a long road. And if you really want to make progress, you got to be in it for the long haul. And you have to understand that in that time, it's not important so much as how you're training over the next 6 weeks or 12 weeks, but rather how you're training over the next 6 months or 12 months, or 6 or 12 years for that matter. And as a result, if you're training in a not so sustainable manner, and you're really just focusing on quantity right now, even if you think you can sustain a super high volume, super high frequency program for the next 6 to 12 weeks, that's great. But what are you gonna do when it's over? A sustainable plan that you can do for the long haul. It's always gonna be more effective than something that you could do in the next 6 to 12 weeks because you're gonna rack up more effective work over time. Now, number 7, and the last tip I'll leave you with. Don't abandon the things that work. But don't be afraid to experiment as well. It's very easy in bodybuilding to program hop. Main reason is because building muscle, let's face it, is an extremely slow process. It's very easy to get bored and say, I'm gonna jump on Arnold's training plan, or I'm gonna use a new method that's currently trending or backed by science. But again, if it's a program that you could realistically only do for 6 to 12 weeks, how much muscle did you really build, especially long term? I'm not saying not to use different training programs that might be more effective, but 99% of bodybuilding and the progress you make is gonna come from that slow, boring work over time. Building muscle is all about being super consistent, checking all the boxes every single day for long periods of time. That's why I always say the basics can build even more muscle than any advanced training plan, provided that you do them for long enough. I always say, I don't care if it's a basic or advanced training plan. The one that you can do longer, train with more consistently, put in more work and effort over time, that's gonna give you more progress than jumping to the latest and greatest training routine every 6 weeks. And if you found any of these tips useful, apply them to your training. And most importantly, give them time. That's when you're gonna see the results. And if you need a program to follow, you can pick up any of my old school mass game programs down below. And as always, if you wanna see more of the best original bodybuilding content just like this, make sure to hit subscribe.